So we're gonna have to deal with Tom's epic rants about Snyder Bros for today. But basically, Zack Snyder, Rebel Moon performs worse than several other films, basically in terms of views. It's not being painted out to be a huge. It's being painted out to be a relatively huge success, but it's actually not.
No.
And the thing is, from anecdotal and anyone who's been making videos with these kind of topics in the past will know that anyone who drops in and sort of comments will say, actually, I didn't even watch the whole thing. So I think what'll be interesting when we look at the view count between part 1 and part 2 is we'll actually see the drop off, because it'll be those people that go, there'll be the people that basically didn't even finish the whole movie. So the views aren't that great anyway. And then pair that with when people drop off on part 2 will actually reveal just how bad the views were. And I also think it shows how much of a gamble, and it's not paid off, that Netflix has taken on Zack Snyder, because they've spent a lot of money on this. Also, Tom, it was a joke. You're in the chat. Clearly, I know you're there. It's a joke, buddy. Calm down. Okay. Shush. It's fine. Come on. But yeah, so basically, what are the views? So they're not great. 23.9 million views this week with what was it? 54.1 million hours viewed. But this has a runtime of 2 hours 16 minutes. So that's not good runtime if you're thinking about the million hours viewed runtime, etc. It's pretty bad. And then you compare it to the likes of this movie. This is a kiddies movie. This is obviously going to be a bit higher. It's 34.6 million views. So it's not really a stretch that would be higher, I don't think, and had 61.7 million hours watched, but it only had a runtime of 1 hour 47 minutes. So it was watched longer. More people watched it, right? Shorter runtime, more views, but substantially shorter runtime, substantially higher hours viewed. I think that makes a big difference there. Family Switch, 22.2 million views. Not incredible runtime. So in terms of viewership, sorry, minutes or hours watched, 42.1 million. I think the real comparison one here, though, one of the real comparisons, because these ones are not fair, I guess, because they're kids' movies. But The Killer, David Fincher's Fassbender movie on Netflix, had a runtime of 2 hours, so close-ish to Rebel Moon. Had 27.9 million views and 55.7 million hours viewed.
And the runtime was less.
So it had more hours watched, more views watched, and it was shorter. Also cost substantially less money as well.
Oh yeah.
And so I think, I do wonder. And then again, look at these figures, for instance. So these are like most popular films of all time. I simply cannot see Rebel Moon popping up on here. The Grey Man, for instance, that's another comparable movie for Rebel Moon, because that's a Netflix production with the Russo brothers. All right, they partnered with the Russo brothers to make The Grey Man with what was his bloody name? I can't remember his name now. I was going to say Ryan Reynolds. It's not Ryan Reynolds. Chap who was in Barbie.
Ryan Gosling.
Ryan Gosling. There you go. It was Ryan. So that's a comparable movie because it's an R-rated one, similar-ish runtime, and insane views. So what do we think? Because I just think this is comical. Again, more here, hours watched, etc. The Mother was incredibly has remained one of the top ones for ages.
But it's weird. It's a weird one.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's good. I'm just saying that these are the things which people are actually watching. And what a lot of this shows when we're looking at these viewing figures and things like that is that most people watch it opening weekend and then they drop off, or opening day, week, probably the week, I think, for Netflix, and then they drop off. So we don't know quite yet how bad this movie has done. It'll be when part 2 gets released that we'll really know, because that will just show that people have abandoned it, basically. But I thought this was interesting because much like what Tom has already said in the chat, saying that it was Well, it was but it was the number oneest movie ever. That's the claim being made. It's actually not, though, even by Netflix standards.
Yeah.
So what do we think? Because I mean, I know I'm the only one that's bloody watched this. No one else has watched it, unless you've watched it.
You could not pay me.
I haven't watched it yet.
Couldn't pay me to watch this. And I look, this is one of those times when I'm like, I have zero interest in this. There is so much political garbage in it. It's very intersectional. The story is going to be long, convoluted, and all kinds of boring. You have a chick that's the key to everything, or it's the other chick that's the key to everything. You don't know at this point how many chicks to everything there are keys to. I know that they probably unlock each other's locks, but that's a whole other conversation. What I know is this: most people that started watching this didn't finish it, and I think that is going to be the biggest takeaway Netflix has from this and their investment in Snyder. And I think he's always his greatest enemy because he always finds a way to just make things overly long. He's very self-indulgent, I think, is what you would say, Mr. H. So.
Oh yeah, massively self-indulgent. Yeah, like he sort of fillets himself, basically.
I don't want to see that on screen, though.
No, but yeah, obviously. But you know what I mean? Like, it's that sort of self-indulgent element of it all.
True.
It's annoying that no one else has bloody watched this. I should have made you, to be fair. So
I tried to make Cultured Casino watch it for Midnight's Edge in the morning. Didn't work.
Yeah, I have it, and I was planning on watching it last night, but I got caught up on Reacher.
I should add that I only tried to make him watch it so I wouldn't have to myself.
Well,
it's something that I'll watch eventually, but I don't have time to do it now, and I'm certainly not going to prioritize it.
Yeah, it was tough. It was really tough. It was
maybe I'll watch the extended version when that comes out.
Fucking don't. What is wrong with you?
Oh yeah, like the 3 or 4 hours.
I can
half of it
I can explain that.
Slow-mo,
I can explain that. Because
no,
I saw Batman
v
Superman in theaters, the theatrical cut, and I thought it was completely, utterly unwatchable and botched. And then I saw the extended director's cut. And while it is flawed as hell, and it was a wrong movie to make, it shouldn't have been made in the first place, it was a far better put together thing. And once you got all that additional thing, it kind of worked like one season of a series crammed together into 4 or 5 hours. Same thing with Watchmen. Like, I don't really like the 2-hour version of it, but that 4-hour version, that's pretty decent. So I think it might be the same thing here. I think that while longer, and it's still not going to be good, I do believe that the director's cut of Rebel Moon probably is going to be, given that you have to watch it, if you have to expose yourself to it while it takes longer, it might be more or less unenjoyable than the shorter and more painful watch that has been botched to bits for length, and that's still too long.
Yeah.
Like, am I making sense?
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings is another good example of
exactly
extended
that's good.
Way better.
I'm about to jump through the screen, bitch slap you, Nick. You're comparing Rebel Moon to fucking Lord of the Rings. Oh my god!
No, I'm not comparing them. I'm just talking about the
principle is the same.
Yeah, the extended editions. You know.
Yeah, that's a real version. Whereas the shorter, that's just botched.
Hyperventilating.
So you're saying a movie that people have been complaining is too long and boring already in the 2-hour version is going to somehow be better in the 3-hour version. Andre,
yes,
fucking hear yourself, seriously.
Less bad in the 3-hour version than the 2-hour.
Okay,
yes,
so you've been waterboarded for 2 hours. For some reason, you think maybe 3 hours is the magic number. So 2 hours sucks. 3 hours waterboarding works.
Okay, you know what? Yes, actually, it does. Here's the thing. Okay, if I get to choose between being waterboarded for 2 hours or being waterboarded for 3 hours. But for those 3 hours, I get slightly longer breaks of breathing in between. Then those 3 hours are going to be less punishing than those 2 hours.
I'm not sure you know how waterboarding works.
There's I don't know. Snyder did come out and say that the extended edition is basically a completely different movie.
I hate it when it does
So I don't think it's going to be the same movie, or according to him, it's not going to be the same movie with just additional scenes. Like, I think it's going to be completely recut, re-edited, and be a completely different movie if what he's saying is true. So I'm almost tempted to just wait and watch the other version that he comes out with, which who knows when that's going to happen. I mean, I don't even think the time frame's been put on that, has there?
I heard something like July,
Okay.
but
That's after the next one, isn't it? I think.
yeah, here's the thing, and Paulie had said something about this because he had talked to somebody or something, like there's going to end up being like 5 different versions of this all said and done. So you have the original 2 cuts, right? You have the original theatrical cut of 1 and 2. Then you have the extended cut of 1 and 2. And then they're supposed to do some like massive like Uber cut like they did with the Snyder cut. So I'm sure, and plus he'll probably have a black and white version.
Yeah, probably.
Which I watched some scenes from his Snyder cut of the black and white version, Andre. All they did was put a black and white filter
That's
on it.
what I
Looks,
thought.
it looks
I never
wretched.
thought they did anything else, and I don't see the point in that. I mean, that was pure pretension. I see it for Godzilla, but doing the Snyder cut, there's no reason why the Snyder cut should ever be in black and white, and that is also true for Logan and for Mad Max Fury Road. They did black and white versions for all of those, and I don't understand why. Godzilla, though, I'm here.
I'll hold my judgment on Godzilla because I don't want to get into an argument on that. But no, he was talking about how he was all like into the black and white version on some interview, and that's implying to me, yeah, he's going to do a black and white version of this somehow or something.
Probably.
And this is what he does. He just keeps bilking Netflix for money. Fine by me. He's the new J.J. Abrams. I was comparing him yesterday for the same reason.
Yeah, I'd say that. Well, there you go. It'll be fascinating to see. What do you reckon the drop off is anyway? Do you reckon we'll get like 10% drop off from part 1 to part 2? Under or over 10%? And then if so, what your estimate is? Culture?
Oh, it's going to be way over 10% fall off. Are you kidding? I think the break even point should have been about 50%. Look, if so many people got like through the first hour or two, I doubt they got through the first 2 hours, but if they got through the first hour and quit, they got to go back and watch part 2.
Okay, so what is it then? What are you estimating?
I think this thing's going to fall off somewhere around 50%, just like a box office does.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. So from part 1 to part 2, 50.
Yeah.
You reckon 50% is going to drop off between part 1 and part 2 views? Okay, Nick, over under 10%. If so, what's your guess?
I think it'll be over 10%. I don't know if it'll be high as 50. Between now and then, maybe there'll be more people that see it that actually like the movie, possibly, and then they come back, or maybe other people are like, the first one wasn't very good. Let me give the second one a shot, see if it's any better. But I definitely think it's gonna be above 10. I don't think it'll be quite as high as 50. I'd probably say 35%.
Okay. Tom's dead. Came in and
I mean, this version has already only gotten like 24 million or 25 million viewers in the first few days. They're acting like this is some huge success when it's not. This is what I was trying to say the other day on our show. And at the end of the day, I think you guys are right. I think it's going to fall off. I mean, just going by the Justice League interest, it had about a third of the audience of the original version. So you lose a big audience there, and then 60% of the people quit watching the Justice League halfway through. And I've heard a lot of people say they've shut this off about a half hour in. So I wouldn't be surprised if we start getting reports eventually that the average viewer only watched 30 to 40 minutes of this movie and then checked out. And the score is starting to reflect that, because the Snyder Bros were jumping out there on the Rotten Tomatoes and other places, review bombing this thing with high scores. And it started off in the high 70s, and now it's fallen off to the 60s, I think, into the low 60s or somewhere in there. I'd have to look again. It's been since yesterday I looked. So at this point, that's just showing you the general audience is not on board with this. I mean, I've been on a few streams now where out of like an average of 4 to 5 people, maybe 1 or 2 of the panelists actually enjoyed the film or liked it all right, but nobody can sing its praise like it's some huge,
I haven't heard anybody
before groundbreaking thing or anything like that.
Andre, over or under 10%? If so,
it's going to fall over 10% for sure. Because here's the thing, as Tom correctly pointed out, this is not a big opening. Netflix, of course, they have to pretend that it's a big opening because this was a very expensive production. It would be embarrassing to say that it was a disappointment for them. They'd rather basically just pretend that, this is right in line with expectations, although much cheaper productions did much better and probably brought in more subscribers. But they're not going to admit that, certainly not yet. So you have, for the budget, relatively few viewers. Now, what that means is that those viewers that gave this thing a try, tried half an hour of this, didn't finish it, they're not going to come back for part 2. Case in point, look at Masters of the Universe Revelation, where season 1 was split into 2 parts. Tons of people checked out season 1, part 1, trended on the top 10 worldwide, but everyone hated it. So when season 1, part 2 came out, it never charted, it never trended. The people were so bummed out on season 1, part 1, they didn't return for season 1, part 2. Same thing is going to happen here. That's why it's going to drop more than 10%. It's not going. No random people are going to go and check out Rebel Moon Part 2. Not when they were already bored and didn't finish Part 1. So it's going to have a big drop off. The only ones who are going to finish or even start watching Part 2 are the ones that finished watching Part 1 and enjoyed it enough that they're interested in Part 2. That's going to be far less than 10%. Yes, a far bigger drop-off than 10%. Is it more than 50% drop-off? You know what? Perhaps it is. I'm thinking it could be like 30% of those that watch this all the way through are going to come back for part 2. This is not a huge hit. This is like the Owls of Wahoo or whatever the hell it was called, right? That also from Zack Snyder.
Okay.
It's going to have like similar kind of views like that, or Kick-Ass or whatever that thing was. I don't remember the name of those stuff. I never saw. Anyway, those things, they didn't really get that much attention, and same thing with this. This is, and I question that it's going to be much more than these 2 parts. I don't know what kind of franchise plans there are beyond parts 1 and part 2, and the black and white and extended versions. If they're already filmed, they're going to happen. But I don't know that we're going to get to part 3, if there ever was any plans for part 3.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I reckon put about 25% will drop off.